Welcome back, everyone. It is Friday evening, and I've got a funny feeling it could be a very feisty Friday evening. I'm joined tonight by two of my regulars, one, of course, which is Danny in Spain. Danny, good evening.
Evening, Paul. How are we? All right?
I'm all right. You're a bit loud there, Danny. You might just want to turn your volume down just a tad. Richard, good evening.
No problem.
Evening, Paul. How are you?
I'm very well, and we've got a new guest tonight. Won't be new to everyone that have seen him before, I'm sure, but it is Paul Burgess. How you doing, Paul?
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Good evening, gentlemen. Well, we have had a rather busy day. We've got so much to get through. I'm not even sure that we're going to even be able to touch the sides tonight, but before we get into the meat and bones and all the juicy stuff, we'll let the crowd populate and gather. We'll have a little waffle amongst ourselves first for the first couple of minutes and get everyone in the room. Danny, how have you been? I know you've been to a birthday party today, Danny. It's your little boy's birthday.
Yeah, he's 5 today. Yeah, I left it at the party, mate. I've left Sophie there. She's cleaning up. She's got the right hump with you, Paul. She ain't talking to you now, mate. That's it.
Well, you know what it is? Richard, he messaged me and he said, I've told Soph that I've got to get home for an emergency live stream. And I said, Danny, I'm going to message her and say we can do without you tonight.
Yeah, he was going to dob me right in, mate. You've done me a right favour.
But
the joys
Danny,
of being a grandfather.
You do know she's going to watch this back, don't you, mate?
Yeah, I know. Shh. Let's just leave it at that. It's only us four.
Boys, the joy of being a grandfather, as much as you love them, you can go, there you go, sweetheart. They're all yours, right? And you can walk away.
I've got 10 of them.
I'm too old to have a 5-year-old, mate, I tell you.
Paul, did you say you've got 10?
10 grandchildren, yeah. 4 kids.
Wow.
I
bet you dread Christmas.
I'm 80 now. I'm 80 last month, yeah.
Wow. You've got the genuine football. You're only one short of the genuine proverbial football team, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're lovely. I mean, I really enjoy the kids. And you're right, you can hand them back and so on. Although the oldest is now 18, so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone piling in. 1,500 people already watching. Before we get into the big topics tonight, let's just have a quick something I was going to cover the other day, but just run out of time. Just cover this one quickly. BBC shame as they spend £400,000 of licence payers' money on a controversial Gaza documentary branded a propaganda tool for Hamas. The BBC has since apologised for that, but isn't funding a terrorist organisation an illegal activity, Danny? Look, I don't. Between me and you, I don't pay the licence, but if I did,
I phoned up the BBC. Paul, I phoned up the BBC years ago and I said, I won't watch it because I don't watch, that's trash anyway, but I don't generally watch live TV. But I phoned them up and I said, I won't fund an organisation that employed and protected Jimmy Savile. So as far as I was concerned, and I told them that, they said, well, we'll send license. I said, you do what you need to do, no problem at all. But I actually phoned them and told them that's the reason I'm not paying my licence fee. But it's interesting the word BBC and tool in the same sentence, what you pulled up just now. Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Do you know what, Danny? I rang them up and I complained about the self-same thing, and they said to me, now then.
I bet they did. You was probably speaking to him, Paul.
You've still got your Jim will fix it badge, haven't you, Paul?
Oh dear. I know.
Fix it badge.
I know Keir Starmer was on Jim will fix it. Paul, look, for those of my viewers that aren't aware of what you do, just give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you get up to.
I think you're talking to me, Paul, because there's two Pauls.
I am, Paul, yeah.
Okay. My background is in business, and I did a lot of hydroclimatology work. So I understand, lots of things about science. I've got a master's, and I was an environmental chartered engineer and so on. So I've got all that, but I'm also a businessman most of my life. And around about 20 odd years ago, when this whole climate nonsense started, I actually swallowed it for a year, but then I decided to look at it. And so now I've produced over 200 videos on my channel, Climate Realism, on YouTube. And those videos really fight, even though they're shadow banned and everything and so on, they just fight the entire climate alarmism. But I give evidence. So I don't just say, believe me, because that's not how science works anyway. Science works by...
Yeah.
It doesn't work by consensus. Consensus is a political thing. But, what we've got today is lie after lie after lie. And so I do sometimes on the engineering side, like the net zero nonsense. And I fight that in every respect. And it's just pure lies. And it's not possible. I mean, net zero is not physically possible. And we've got a government that can't add up its figures. So you either got to conclude people in government are either really, really stupid or evil. I mean, choose. But what they can't be is truthful. They're not truthful to the people. And what it's all about is control. It's not about the climate. It's all about controlling you, the people.
Yeah,
in every respect.
completely agree.
And so I often use sheep as an example, where you herd the sheep together. For the sheep, I replace them all with things like 15-minute cities and things like this. And I herd them and I say, this is what it's all about. And people say most stupid things. So I've got a few achievements in it. I've managed to get a stop net zero bloke with a sentence. He actually threw a table at us. And he was the one who painted the first painting in London. And I got him arrested and successfully prosecuted. Yeah. So I appear on GB News occasionally as well on the Nana Akua show. I've been on about 40 times so far. And I normally fight Jim Dale, who knows nothing about the subject. And it's very difficult to debate someone who knows nothing,
Nothing,
And so I also try to get, I'll give you one little story. A producer tried to get me on the Palladium fighting a world famous scientist. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. Love to do that. So we had a Zoom call. And it became obvious in the Zoom call he didn't know his subject, even though he had the best-selling book on climate alarmism. And so he said, I need another professor, another one, to do the data part. So we did another Zoom call. And I realized they didn't know the subject, but so did the producer. So what they said, yeah, we'll agree to do it. Will you do 2 against 1, Paul? So I said, yeah, no problem at all. And then they said, but we have to control the meeting as well. And you can ask us questions and all we can do is affirm what we think. I said, no, it's meant to be a debate. No, we can't do that. So that collapsed. And everywhere I go, I challenge professors all the time because they go on. I mean, and what they call me for I've been surrounded by Antifa, and the police have been doing. And yet all I was talking about was a 15-minute city. So I find myself in the same zone as Tommy. I mean, I met Tommy about 10 years ago and made the 3-part documentary, The Real Tommy Robinson. And that's what shattered me, really, because when the last part of that documentary is when he just won the appeal, on the Court of Appeal had ruled on every count that he was right. And then the Attorney General went and changed the rules, if you like, and still put him in prison for nothing. I couldn't believe it then.
So that was a conservative. That was a conservative Attorney General that did that.
It was,
well.
yes.
That was Cox. Yes. That was Cox.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it was. And so, some of the filming actually, even for Silenced, has been done at my home. When you see Tommy with the trees and water behind him, that's where I am. But so I had a close association with Tommy these years, more or less in the background. I met him at a big Brexit do in London, before Brexit there was a big thing with the UKIP I'm Tommy on, and that was my first documentary on that subject. And so, but I would guess, and recently I started doing a series called The Crimes of Tommy Robinson, which weren't really crimes. What I was trying to do was attract people into it to show them. Yeah. So that's my background. And today I've just managed, after 60 days, they've timed it to the day, to get my petition through on Tommy, which is something
absolutely.
I want 100,000 signatures on this.
Paul, we will come to that later on. For the moment, your screen is just frozen for a moment.
I thought that was just me, Paul.
No, Paul, I'm going to remove you and bring you back in. Hopefully it fixes the problem. Fine. We can hear. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Oh, he's back on.
You're back.
I'm back on now, right.
I thought it was early onset of rigor mortis for a minute, but you're.
I'm not waiting. I'm not that bad. If I go off in the show, it'll make a memory of you. Someone died on your show,
Oh dear, don't say that.
We die every week. We die every week, Paul.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mate, honestly, I'll tell you what.
Anyway,
I'll tell you what.
That's my background, so it's varied with that sort of thing.
Excellent, Paul. I've got that little video that you let loose today. I'm going to play that with your permission.
Yeah, of course.
Later on in the show, because we're going to talk about the petition that you've managed to get past the tyranny of .gov.
That's right.
Something
and even
that
Muslim chap. Actually, it was a Muslim chap who finally agreed it with me.
Well, fair play to him then. Fair play to him.
But it applies to everyone. It doesn't apply just to Tommy, but it's really about Tommy.
Exactly. And that's the clever part of it. Let's just have a quick look back, because we've got so much good stuff to talk about tonight. Let's have a quick look back at our dear leaders, our wonderful leader. I've got his picture up on my wall behind me, just in case.
Is it on a dartboard?
No, it's in case the police turn up. I've got the great leader picture on my wall, Yeah. Let's talk about his little visit to the United States yesterday and his meeting with the Don. I mean, I've got to be honest with you, boys. I was a little bit disappointed that I knew there was something big coming with Trump this week, and I was hoping it was going to be with Starmer. I was hoping to see, like the old Western saloons when the bad guy's thrown out the door and the doors go flying and the baddie goes rolling out in the dust and his hat flies off. Well, I was hoping that was what we was going to see. Unfortunately, he saved that for another geezer today called Zelenskyy, but we'll come on to that later on. But I don't know, Danny, did you see any of the meeting with?
I did see it, Paul. I mean, I think Lammy and both of them, they're regretting what they said, haven't they? Both Starmer. It's so clear. I mean,
Lammy.
why even Trump would allow him sitting in the same room as him is beyond me. He's as I say, I saw it, Paul. I just think that was very reserved, and I think that doesn't project the true feeling between Trump and Starmer. I just think it was all for the camera. I think it was all for the camera. Here's the birthday boy. Here's the birthday boy.
Hello, happy birthday, mate. How you doing?
Say thanks, I'm 5.
Thanks, I'm 5.
Big 5, my goodness.
Oh boy, and if you're lucky, Carter, you'll grow up to look like your mum instead of your dad.
I have a party.
He had a nice party.
Boy.
Say bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you later, mate. Have a lovely night. So yeah, I mean, he kind of saved that for Zelenskyy, didn't he? Which was a bit of a shame.
I mean,
I thought Trump was being polite, but I thought JD's kind of got stuck in a little bit, and I got the feeling that there was going to be more said off camera than there was on. Whereas with Zelenskyy today, it appears to be the other way round.
Nothing behind the camera, I don't think. There's nothing left. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was afterwards that Trump got the ump with nothing that had happened, and he saved it all up for today. Maybe it gave him the ump because he did seem like that.
I think I'll be honest with you. Looking at the two meetings, the Starmer one was just embarrassing. I mean, Starmer just looked like he just looked so effeminate. I mean, the way he was touching Trump on the show, I was cringing. I thought, that's our prime minister. I was actually embarrassed. In fact, I don't like Zelenskyy, and I've made no bones about that. But at least Zelenskyy tried to, it didn't go very well for him, but he tried to stand up for what he believed in. Starmer just sold everything he believed out, And I think what will happen with Starmer, now this massive rows happened with Zelenskyy and all these, all these liberal, lefty, globalist world leaders are going to try and gang up on Trump. Big mistake. And I think Starmer will lead the charge and Starmer will turn on Trump. And I think, again, it will be an absolutely massive mistake. And just so everyone's clear, I think Trump and JD Vance were very respectful to Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy completely disrespected them, disrespected the Oval Office, disrespected their office, disrespected the power that he was speaking to, and he got slapped. And he deserved to get slapped. So all these people that are clutching the pearls and saying about how dreadful Trump was absolutely within his rights to speak to Zelenskyy like that. That little pipsqueak does want to take us to World War III. He is a warmonger. He's covered and soaked in the blood of the Ukrainian people. He could have had a ceasefire 2 years ago, and he didn't go for it. So as far as I'm concerned, Zelenskyy got served today by Trump, and he deserved it.
He's become very wealthy as well, hasn't he?
Allegedly, yeah.
Oh.
How do we know
Allegedly,
that?
yeah.
How do we really know that?
Well, that he's become wealthy.
Well, there's a lot
Paul,
of billions gone missing. There's a lot of billions gone missing in the aid, the armament aid. I mean, a huge amount, actually. And really, I'd be wanting to find out where that money went before another penny went that way.
Well, I believe they're looking at that at the moment, but they're trying to.
Well, if you look at the properties that his people are allegedly living in, I think in the United States and other parts of the world as well, if you look at the luxury properties that they're allegedly living in, that would explain where some of that money has gone. But I mean, look, the politics of it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Putin's a gangster as well. Putin's a war criminal and a gangster. Let's get it right. I mean, Putin's not, I'm not a Putin fan. I'm not one of these people that thinks Putin's some great Christian hero. He's not. He's a gangster. He's a murderer. He's a murderer. He's an evil man, but Zelensky's a little better, in my opinion. They should, both of those protagonists should have gone to the negotiating table and stopped young men from each side getting massacred and stopped the risk of World War III happening. That's all Trump's trying to do. And like I say, I've got a very good friend, trains the Ukrainian Special Forces. He lives in Ukraine, and he's got a completely different opinion to me, but we completely disagree on this, but we're still good friends. And, he thinks that that Zelensky's okay, but I don't think either of them okay. I think they're both warmongering, bloodthirsty.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, Rich. Right? Putin can't be seen to back down, can he? He can't be. So it will never end, will it? So it's going to end with more and more people dying every single day because Putin will never back down. He can't. He can't lose the face.
Danny, I think that Trump will
may be forced to back down by the people. So much damage has been done to him, but he may be forced to back down. The trouble is, in being forced to back down, he's going to sacrifice hundreds of thousands of more lives.
Exactly.
And he doesn't give a damn. If you look at Stalin, he went through actually more like 40 or 60 million people in the things he did, not just the war. But in the Second World War, Russia just threw bodies at it. Literally, pick up the rifle from the bloke who's just dropped in front of you, sort of thing. Yeah, but that's always been the tactic of Russia. What the war has exposed is how bad Russia is with armaments and their military and everything else. How bad they are, and how really compared to the West, we're nowhere near. So it has exposed some interesting things that have come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't for their nuclear capability, they wouldn't be a particularly frightening prospect, would they?
Not at all.
But that's the problem that they have the nuclear option and it works. I mean, the reality is they've got 6,000 something nuclear warheads pointed at the West now, and that's what people are not factoring in. This would never have happened in the Cold War. We would have never been in a situation where we were firing missiles into East Germany. That would not happen because that was a red line, and everybody knew the rules of the game. Everybody knew it was a red line. Yeah. And like I say, as much as I despise Putin and everything he stands for, but the truth is that the West has broken agreement after agreement. They pushed themselves up to the borders of Russia. They've, they're obviously within very close striking distance of Russia. And that's what, Russia has a strategic interest in keeping the West out of Ukraine. And of course, that is Putin does not want to conquer Western Europe. He might do now, but that wasn't his intention. That wasn't his intention.
Putin wants to put the old Soviet Union back.
Do you think he does? Do you think he does, Paul? Do you think he does? Do you think he does want to do that?
He actually says it. He actually says Ukraine is part of Russia. He wants the whole of Ukraine. It is part of Russia. And whilst I agree that we pushed away at the bear, poked the bear, by breaking our word on what we would do as regards NATO. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So what we mean maybe is not realistic about the situation and the areas of influence. But I think Putin, if you listen to the interview he did that long interview with that American journalist chap, he came out very clear that he wanted to really get, he considers parts like that, and certainly the Ukraine is part of Russia, and he wanted the whole of Ukraine. So I empathise with Ukraine, because you can't just have a country being invaded like that and give it away. You can't have that. I also don't like the war and what's happened, and I don't like the corruption within Ukraine. That's obviously there. So you haven't got a perfect world. Now, when you haven't got a perfect world, you should accept reality. Then you should deal with reality, and maybe that's not what's been happening.
Well, I think that's what Trump's trying to do. I think Trump's trying to have an imperfect peace.
Trump's trying to do. Yeah,
It's
now, ironically, before this broke today, I mean, a couple of days ago, I did a poll a couple of days ago, and it was this. We had 25,000 votes on it. What's your latest opinion on Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelenskyy? He's a good man, and I trust him. 15%. I'm not sure. I can't decide. 16%. But the winner on 70% was, I don't trust him any more than Putin. And I think that might be even a bit higher if we revisited that today.
Definitely, Paul. Definitely. I mean, I think. I mean, we're actually in uncharted territory now, because there was a deal on the table there for Zelenskyy today, and he's flounced off in a huff. He's spat his dummy out, and he's ran away from the White House. Trump said he's not coming back. He's not going to invite him back unless he's ready for peace. So what does worry me is if these stupid, pathetic, egotistical European leaders like Starmer and Macron and whoever's in charge of Germany, I can't even remember who's running Germany at the minute, and a few of these other people, and that crazy NATO commander-in-chief, whatever his name is, Rutte, from the ex-Dutch prime minister, if they start flexing their muscles and say, well, we'll go on our own, which I think they might, because I think they're stupid enough to try that, then there could be British body bags coming back from Ukraine. And that really worries me. I just hope people realise that Zelenskyy is an idiot. He's not a strategist. He's a failed comedian, and he's going to be a failed president, and he needs to go. They need to get somebody in the Ukraine that will actually engage in a...
What actually matters... No, I mean, look, and I'm not an expert in politics in that region, and I'm not just the same as I'm not an expert in the Middle East, but what I want to see all over the world is bloody peace. I'm sick and tired of seeing young men coming back to their mums and dads in bloody body bags, whichever side they're on. Charlene, thank you very much. She's a new member. Sai, thanks, Sai. Good evening, gents. All the best, Sai. David Crosby, Starmer and his begging cap, silly twit. See, David, twit, you're polite. I like a bit of politeness. Divergent Pie, JD taking Starmer to task on free speech was great. Then two-tier lied saying that we have free speech, wishing you all well.
Watching that was terrible. Watching Starmer say that we have it. We've had it a long time. We have it. I'm sorry. My TV only just survived that.
Well, I've got to tell you, June Slater got it right earlier on. I love June. She said, of course we got free speech, but you don't have a lot of freedom after you've spoken it.
Ain't that the truth?
Brilliant.
Well, unless you're a jihadi or a left-wing troll, I mean, they seem to be able to say what they want.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I want to talk about the behaviour of Antifa as well at the Reform event earlier in the week, and there was a subsequent event that had to be cancelled. David, thank you very much. Donald Trump. Cheers, mate. Thank you, David. I mean, Danny, I don't know if you caught up with any of that nonsense that was going on outside the Reform Party conference down in Cornwall. But the usual suspects, they're all masked. You can see their pink hair poking out from underneath their black hoodie and their weird looking. I mean, what is wrong with these people?
We should plan these things on Dole Day, Paul. We should plan it when they can pick up the Dole checks, because no one would turn up. None of them would turn up. They'd have a very peaceful day.
Yeah, I find it so ironic that these people that preach tolerance are the most intolerant people you'll ever get to meet in your life. I mean, Richard,
They
some of
don't
that behaviour now
they don't accept anyone else's opinion, do they, on anything? It's
apart
their
from
opinion.
their
That's
own.
it. Yeah, exactly that.
Apart from their own.
I watched a video by one of the leaders of Antifa in the UK about two or three, and this guy was actually a university professor, and he was one of the most sinister people I've ever seen in my life. And he said this: he says, "We will not." This is Antifa. This is their ideology. We will not stop until the people that we're fighting against are either broken, or dead, or capitulate. That's what he said. He said we won't stop. He said, you know, proper hardcore, whatever they are, anarchists, I don't know what they are, but they just keep going and going and going until they win. That's what I mean. They obviously don't, because they're not in that position. But if they were in the position of power, they would not stop. They would do everything they could to silence us, everything they could to destroy us. And of course, the reality is they are in power because a lot of these people in the Labour Party are aligned with Antifa and these far left organisations, Socialist Workers' Party, Revolutionary Communist Party. And, you know, we've got a massive, and let's get it right, a lot of people associated with the Conservative Party are extremely left-wing as well, and the Lib Dems, and the Greens. You know, so we've got this horrendous Islamist, Antifa, hard left alliance with massive power and influence in the country. And we need to get power, and we need to drain the swamp. We need to put any of these people that are criminals in prison. And we need to totally clean house, do exactly what Trump's trying to do in America. And of course, Trump's getting massive pushback as well. He's not getting an easy ride in America. The judges are against him. You know, Netanyahu's getting this in Israel as well. So Western democracy has been totally undermined by these people. And Antifa is just the tip of the spear. There's a lot of people sitting in the background that think exactly like they do. And it's a massive problem.
So, Paul, where do we stand on the free speech issue here? I mean, everyone has a right to demonstrate, or most people. I'm not so sure we have the right to demonstrate, but we do anyway. I mean, you know, look, people have the right to demonstrate, but there's a line, isn't there, where the police should surely be. I mean, there didn't appear to be much coordination with the police there the other night. I don't know if you saw it, but
I did. I watched it.
Yeah, there was no keeping the two sides apart. It was bad.
Yes. So I'm more or less an absolutist on free speech. I really do believe in free speech. And if people take offence, that's up to them. They take the offence. Yeah, that's up to them. And so I really want to roll that back a lot. And I would like to be much nearer to I'd like to be on the American system, on the Second Amendment. That's where I'd like to be on, in Britain, full stop. Now, if you insult somebody, fine. You know, too bad, you've insulted somebody. But that line has got to be the line for prosecution on free speech or for taking any advice. And by the way, even policemen visiting somebody is a negative, even if there's nothing action. You know, we've got this no crime hate speech and all this nonsense. Because when people visit you and things, that itself is suppression, and that is totally unacceptable. And so when I was at university, we had a visiting Russian. That was in the days, by the way, of in the 60s when we had a visiting bloke from East Germany, you know, which was like the Soviet Union then, in effect. And when someone stood up and asked him about the Berlin Wall, the lecturer said, "Oh no, you can't ask bad questions like that." So I stood up and said, "Oh yes, you can." You know, so even then there was an element, of suppression going back 50 odd years, and today it's gone to the extreme. So we really have to have a charter. We have to have a Bill of Rights that lays out very clearly what your rights are. So I don't accept this. Inciting violence, fine, but that's it. You can't speak and incite violence. The rest, as far as I'm concerned, if I say, you know, I insult you because you're transgender or because you're this, although I've got no particular argument with anyone like this, I'm all for freedom. Yeah. Nevertheless, if you want to take umbrage at it, fine. Now, when I was in Swansea and I was surrounded by Antifa, and I was just by myself on a bench, and about 30 or 40 of them found out who I was, and I was there to give a talk on the 15-minute city, which is to do with climate change. And the police were about 200 yards away. And when they started all chanting and surrounding me, and they were calling me a Nazi, which is a good qualification these days. I'm sure all you lot have suffered that. But that was that. When I was on television against Stop Oil people, and I handed them a document to show proof, they actually screwed it up and threw it. That got a lot of views, by the way. That did. They actually published that as a little clip. They didn't want to look at the evidence. No one wants to examine the facts. And in my own area, it's the same. In climate change, they won't argue with me. They won't debate me. And I welcome debate, and I challenge Professor. I was on television about something that I just blew it apart, the argument. A professor from Reading University had said, air turbulence is increasing climate change. So all I did was take the Federal Aviation Authority data to show the graph that it wasn't. Yeah, in fact, it was slightly worse in the past. So it wasn't. And so no matter what you do in your little experimental model, in the world, it doesn't do that. So the professor, what did he do? The professor who did that work, he went on Facebook, called me, because of my association with Tommy, called me a Nazi, called me this, called me that. And a lot of people then tried to say, well, let's debate him. I said, I'll debate you. He cut me out. And a lot of people said, come on, I'll debate you. And he wouldn't allow anyone to debate him. So I made a video on the professor who won't debate. And that's the case everywhere. Everywhere in my field of climate, no one wants to debate me. Nobody. And I'd love it. I'd love people to. I know I'm a subject. But again, I don't give opinions. I give facts and data. And
well, that's one thing they can't put up with. By the way, guys, if any of you have been contacting or trying to contact Danny on Facebook or his messenger, I'm not going to laugh. He's been hacked. I try and keep a straight face, Danny.
It's gone, mate. My Facebook and my messenger. I blame you, Paul. I think it's because I'm on your channel. I think they've attacked me. I've been hacked.
It's since you was on Liam's. That's what it is, mate.
Oh, mate. Liam, I'm sorry he keeps bringing this up, mate. I can't. I'll pop back on your channel soon, mate. We need to have a proper debate. No, seriously, it's been about a week.
People are moaning that your mic's a bit loud. Can you turn it down a little bit?
Yeah, no problem.
Or just
no
take it away
all, mate.
Or just move it away from your mouth a bit, about 4 or 5 miles a bit.
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Mouse Charger, thank you, Mouse Charger. See Starmer's face giving the letter from the king. He was like a little boy thinking he'd made it. So cringeworthy.
I agree with that.
Laurie N, thank you. Was Trump taking the piss when he said he liked Starmer's voice? I think he had to have been, didn't he?
Well, the Americans do like the British voice. The first trip to America, I went into a bank. I was changing some traveller's checks. She said, I'll do it for you in a second, but I have to get my friend. So she brought her friend to the till. And she said, can you ask me again? I said, ask you what? She said, to change the traveller's checks. I said, I've just said it. I'll ask you again. So I asked her. She said, I just like your voice and I wanted my friend to hear it. So the Americans do like the British voice. There's no doubt about it.
I think you know what, Paul? I think voices like yours, they will definitely appreciate. Unfortunately, voices like mine, they just don't understand. They usually think I'm either Australian or
Paul,
I don't know, anything but British.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking, or what I heard out here in Spain, when Trump and Starmer met, Starmer gave him a football shirt with number 10 on the back with Starmer underneath it. Is that right? Apparently that's one of the gifts he's given. Well, that's what I've heard. Apparently he gave him a gift of a football shirt with the name Starmer and number 10 above it. And that's genuine. I'm not winding anyone up. Apparently that's what he done.
It wouldn't surprise
I bet he's treasured that, or he's going to wash his cat litter tray with it or something, you know?
It can't be that cringy.
But as I say, I actually thought it was a wind-up. It was on the news, I heard it. It was on the news in Spain, I heard it.
If you're searching for a compliment to give Starmer, you've got problems, haven't you? And so to say, I like your voice, is about the minimum you can get away with, isn't it? I think
absolutely.
Well, I think that was a reference to the voice coach, wasn't it? I think Trump's very clever, and people don't realise how clever Trump is, and I think that was definitely that's what he was talking about there. It was basically the voice coach. Yeah.
Let's have a very, very quick look at JD in action.
With our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British, of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So that is something that we'll talk about today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
What an absolute hypocrite. What an absolute hypocrite. While people are sitting in prison as we speak because of speaking. Yet, you know, you can openly go into London, nick 200 quid's worth of stuff out of the local Sainsbury's and know that the police are not coming to your door. Put one little tweet on Facebook or X or whatever it is, and you got them knocking on your door. It's disgrace. What a disgraceful hypocrite, and what a terrible statement that was.
Paul, I want to get onto the petition that you've managed to get launched today. I want to play a little video that you released earlier on this afternoon. I hope you don't mind me playing it.
No, all I'm after is signatures.
I think it sums up well. Let's play this.
Okay. I have known Tommy Robinson for about 10 years, and you couldn't meet more of a gentleman than Tommy Robinson. You couldn't meet a braver person than Tommy Robinson. It's as simple as that. I'm in awe of him for what he has to put up with and the way he's been picked upon by the establishment. And I know you've all heard the bad stories, but regardless of what you think of Tommy Robinson, it is wrong for anybody in prison to be tortured. And that's what they're doing to Tommy Robinson. For a start, they put him in a prison where he has to be segregated for his own good. Well, that actually is wrong. After 15 days, that's torture. Not according just to me, but according to Home Office documents, it is torture. So what I started in, I applied for a petition at the beginning of January 25, and it's only just come through with modifications, but it's just come through and is being published now. And the petition is in the description underneath this video. And the petition is very simply to ban people being kept in isolation longer than 15 days. And don't forget, with Tommy Robinson, it's not just the isolation. They've restricted who he can speak to on the phone, even his ex-wife, which is a conduit through to his children. And why did they ban? Because you're only allowed to have one person on the phone at one time. This has actually happened. One person on the phone at one time. So he was trying to contact his son, couldn't get hold of him, became worried. Being in isolation, he tends to maybe exaggerate things a bit, becomes slightly paranoid, as any normal person would be. And so he phones his ex-wife to say, where is he? She's driving, but it's on hands-free. And she says, I don't know. But the daughter's in the car, his daughter, and says, oh, it's okay. I made contact with him on Snapchat. His phone's had a problem. Because the daughter joined that conversation, it became a multi-party. They cut him off. Do you know what he was punished with that? They stopped his wife phoning him, his ex-wife. So she's cut off. She's not allowed to talk. And then they gave him a week's punishment by stopping his food order for a week. Now, Tommy can only eat the stuff on his food order because, frankly, if he had the prison food prepared by the prisoners who, frankly, some of whom tried to kill him, it's not safe for him. So what's wrong, of course, they shouldn't be in that prison at all for the civil offence he committed. He really should not be in prison at all, actually. But not just that, but a high security prison for this. It is total vindictive punishment by this government. So my petition is simply to ban anyone being longer than 15 days in isolation, because after that, it's torture. And again, not just to me, not just by me, but by all the different authorities around the world, by human rights, everything. It is torture. We've got to stop torturing Tommy Robinson. I can't make the petition about him. Petitions have to be general. They have to be like a rule. But what this petition I hope will start, and I want 100,000 signatures, by the way, what this petition I hope will start is a discussion of what's going on with Tommy Robinson and his isolation, to try to stop this two-faced government, this two- or three-tier justice system, because I think Tommy has his own special third tier, to stop this going on in our society. So regardless of what you think about Tommy Robinson, regardless of whether you hate the man or not, no one should be tortured. And the duty of the prison service is this. 1, each prisoner should be kept safe. 2, they can't be put in isolation longer than 15 days. That's all this petition's about. I ask you to sign it. Not just that, I ask you to share this everywhere. X, Facebook, Twitter, everything, share it everywhere, right? And I really would appreciate that. So really, let's get this petition going. It's in the description below. Let's go for it. And thank you for watching.
Can we just give Paul a round of applause for that? I think absolutely brilliant. Well done, Paul. The link to the petition is indeed in the video description below on this video.
Great.
Please sign it. There's 4,231 people, 34 people currently watching across all my platforms. So hopefully that's another 4,000 signatures by the end of this evening. If there isn't, I want to know why. I might send Richard round to nag you on your doorstep there. But yeah, get behind Paul's petition. It's really important. Not only sign it, but please share it. I know we're all a bit done with signing this and writing letters, but this is important. It's a big one. So please get behind it, and well done, Paul. Ed, thank you, Ed. Keir Starmer boldly brags we have free speech in the UK, but this hypocritical regime locks up folks for daring to speak their minds online. What a load of rubbish. And the lovely Sharon Ray says, love to you all. I'm now on YouTube. Free Tommy Robinson. Well done, Sharon. Another round of applause. Lovely. Love to see that. Brilliant, Sharon. I will get over there as soon as I can. And I will be subscribing. Now, someone earlier on, Richard, had a little ask, where does my super chats go? Do I give them a charity, or do I spend it on myself? I don't really feel the need to dignify that question, but just so people know, Richard knows where a lot of the super chat money goes, and it's not on me, is it, Richard?
No, I mean, the last event that we had, you paid for people to be able to travel from all over the country with the money. I mean, let's get it right, Paul. The reality is, if you took all that money and put it in your pocket, anyone who objects to that is just a jealous, bitter and twisted creep. And I'll tell you why. Because I know how much work you've put into this movement since you've been doing this, Paul, right? And I know how much you've given to people, right? And your attitude, what you brought in terms of positivity and a different way of doing things and a different way of looking at things, the people that you've got connected with our movement who are extremely prominent and extremely influential, to be honest with you, apart from Tommy, nobody else has managed to do that before. So I think for anybody to start asking questions, I had this, I'm not going to go into detail, but I got ambushed on an interview with some guy, and to be honest with you, well, I'm not going to go into it, but anyway, and he was asking questions about money for who how much were things costing for the events and this and this and this and all the rest of it. And first of all, it's nobody's business how much things cost. And secondly, when you're moving in our circle, a lot of people will not do business with you because of who you are and because of who you're associated with. And I tell you what, Paul, if you suddenly decided, okay, I'm done with this, I'm going to go into another line of business, it would be extremely difficult for you to do that, for the very simple reason that you are now, like the rest of us, tarnished and tainted because of your association with Tommy. It's completely wrong. It's completely immoral. Nobody should be tarnished because they've spent time with Tommy Robinson. But that's just a fact. It affects your business. It affects all sorts of areas of your life, even to the stage of getting debanked and all that sort of stuff. So people just haven't got a clue. Once you put your head above the parapet. So I've been in the background, and I'm not digging people out for being in the background. That's great. But if you're in the background and you're digging people out that are actually facing the enemy
on the front
full
line,
frontal assault in the front line, well, stand in Paul Thorpe's shoes for a day. See how many people he gets phoning him that need help. How many texts he gets. How many people he gets, coming to them with their problems. And Paul is, I've said this before, and I'm not saying that blow smoke at your backside, Paul. You're one of the nicest people I've met in this movement. And I've been doing this for 8 years. I can safely say I have never said anything bad about you or thought anything bad about you. And I'm a horrible twat. So, I mean, that's unusual for me. So You know, I could fall out myself if I was left in the room. If I was in solitary confinement, I'd be fighting with myself every night. You know what I mean? So just, do you know what, Paul? See, anyone gives you any negative feedback, just ignore them and just don't even respond to them. You know, like I say, it's the same with Tommy. People talk about Tommy. Oh, you know, see if Tommy was earning, and he's not. But see if Tommy was earning £1 million a year, I wouldn't begrudge him a penny of it. If he was running around in a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, I wouldn't care.
Be enough.
Because who's worth more, Joey Essex or Tommy Robinson?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, some numbskull reality TV show star, or the guy that's actually probably going to save this country. You know, and it's the same with you, Paul. You're doing the hard yards, doing it in the trenches, and it's nobody's business what you do with the super chats. But I do know that you've given very, very generously to lots of people, and you don't boast about it, you don't brag about it. So just tell them to sling the hook. It just annoys me.
Thanks, mate. I mean, one of the things that I think people forget is I did have 40 years as a businessman before I started doing this. So I've managed to, put a bit aside and maintain a reasonable lifestyle. I don't really know why I should have to make any excuses for that, but
you don't. You don't. And listen, a lot of it's jealousy. A lot of it's from people who don't understand the way this works, and that you have to have a certain skill set to be able to do this. You have to be able to talk. You have to have a little bit of ability to make videos. You have to be able to use the technology. You have to pay people sometimes to do that because you don't have time to do it yourself. So people have got to understand that it's not just as simple as sitting in front of a camera and starting talking. You've got to know what you're talking about, Paul. Otherwise, you come on and you look like an idiot. So you've got to do the research. You've got to understand what you're talking about. And yeah, it just annoys me, guys. I'm sorry. It's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I've had a lot of this in the last few weeks, and I don't like it.
Who's that, Danny?
Me and Joey Essex. All right, don't dig my mate out, Rich.
Mate, were you doing a bit of bodyguarding there, Danny?
Sort of. I chucked him out of my bar. Yeah.
No. Danny, I wasn't picking on Joey Essex.
Absolutely. Fire away, Paul.
You should.
The petition isn't about the petition in a way. It's about getting enough numbers for it to cause a storm and concentrate on the one thing, which is getting Tommy out of isolation. That's what
absolutely.
It's not the petition's not going to change the government. The government's not going to change the law. The law was already against it. Actually, the government are ignoring it. So the government's own home office says you can't do what they're doing. What it's about is getting the publicity. Can you imagine the effect of getting 100,000 signatures on it? It would, and if you can get 40,000 people to cover one of the London things, we should be able to get 100,000 to sign it. So
absolutely.
I want it spread everywhere, and that's what it's about. Not thinking like it's another petition that has no effect. It's not to do with that.
Yeah, we must get behind the petition. So, as I said, guys, please, it's in the description below. But more than anything, I mean, you guys often say, we want to be part. How can we help? What can we do? There you go. There's your chance.
Yeah, I mean,
Danny, I think that, go on.
Yeah, I think the petition is a great idea, Paul. I mean, we kind of tried things ourselves and they got knocked back. And yours have got through, which is absolutely great. And obviously, guys, listen. Same as with the pledge, get that petition signed and share it, because if we get to the stage where we can actually get a debate in Parliament on this very important issue, because it's not just about Tommy, because if they're doing it to Tommy, they can do it to me, they can do it to the two Pauls, they can do it to Danny. Once we step across that line, they'll come for us. And like Paul says, I'm a free speech absolutist. There's some things people say I really, really don't like, but I 100% defend their right to say it. And I actually, when the left were doing some pretty appalling things and the Hamas supporters outside that near that synagogue, I was still concerned about the way people were getting arrested. And I said that on the podcast. I said, look, I'm not happy with people being arrested unless they're actually becoming violent. If they're being arrested just for being in one place, because we know they can turn those guns on us as well. It's a double-edged sword. So, I'm with you, Paul, and I hope to goodness that petition bears fruit and that we get Tommy out, earlier than today.
Yeah, Ben Habib today published a letter in the Daily Express, and in that he mentions Tommy, and he says, if they can do it to him, they can do it to you one day. Yeah. And he doesn't know Tommy, but the principle he's saying is no one should be treated like this. Full stop. right?
Absolutely.
And the way I want to shame the government, I want enough publicity on it to shame the government into what they're doing, breaking their own, super left-wing caring image. They torture people. But that's always been the case with socialism.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he should be allowed home on a tag, on license. If he has to have a curfew, okay, a curfew or whatever they have to do, so be it. But he should not be in jail, and he certainly shouldn't be in bloody solitary confinement. But I mean, what do you do when nobody listens? I mean, I said, Paul, the other week that what do you do when you can't even petition a government to listen? If they won't even allow you to petition, where do you go? Where do you go from there? So,
Paul, it's very dangerous, Paul, because the reality is that's what happened in Northern Ireland, or that's what was perceived by the nationalist community to have happened in Northern Ireland in the 1960s, and to a certain extent the loyalist community and the loyalist community now. I mean, and what happens is it leads to disenfranchisement, which can at any point just explode like it did in September.
Yeah.
And one of my things about Tommy is, if anything happens to Tommy in prison, right, through whatever it is, if he gets hurt or something really bad happens to him, that could be the tipping point in this country. That could tip our country into massive civil unrest. And I think the government they've got to factor that into everything that they do with Tommy Robinson. Because they might think they're getting a great victory by trying to break him, but if they damage him in any way, if he comes out, with any sort of mental illness or any ailment from his ridiculously long incarceration in solitary confinement, the government may end up paying a massive price for that on the streets. And I'm not advocating that. I'm for peace. I don't want anything like that to happen. But sooner or later, if the British working class are continually ignored, there will be an explosion. I don't want to see that happen. That's why we do what we do, and that's why I've always done what I do, because I want to make
pressure
sure
cooker.
But it is a pressure cooker.
Tommy wasn't right. Tommy wasn't right before he went into prison.
I know. Of course he wasn't.
I met him. I was out in Spain as well, and that man was not right, and he knew he wasn't right. And he actually knew he's gone back into prison as well, of course, as we all know. And yet he was still wanting to go back in prison to make the point, on the silence film. And so even though he hadn't recovered from the original isolation, that's a brave man. A brave man is not someone who goes into war, if you like, not caring about himself. A brave man is someone who's really scared but still does it. And that is Tommy.
Do you know, Paul, I made exactly the same point. I think I did it on this podcast. And I said this, it says, in a war, I was a soldier, in a war, you either react or you don't react. It's a split-second decision. You either storm that machine gun post or you don't storm the machine gun post. Yeah. And that's how people get Victoria Crosses. They either do it or they don't do it, right? But Tommy was different, because Tommy knew exactly what he was going to face. He knew he was going to go to prison.
Right.
Prison is what gave him PTSD. It is a phobia, and he walked into the lion's den, literally. Yeah. And put himself on the line for that. And like I say, I've always respected Tommy. I've always loved Tommy. But that single act, made my esteem for Tommy go even higher. And do you know what I hope when he gets out? I hope that the Americans, right, let him into America. I know obviously there have to be a lot of string pulling and all the rest of it. And he gets on a lecture tour, and he goes around the States for about a year without having to worry about doing anything in England, without having to worry about saving England. And he comes back a multi-millionaire with lots of connections in America and with a lot of influence. And he comes back as a statesman, because that's what we need now. And Tommy needs it.
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way, actually. I realised Tommy would be very welcome in the States under this regime. But what you've just said is a brilliant idea, because it'd actually do the UK more good by doing that. It wouldn't be just America. It would actually do a lot of UK. And what I'm trying to do by the publicity on his isolation, and what sort of prison? I mean, it isn't just the isolation. Because that girl came on a hands-free thing in the car, because his daughter, who also had separate permission to be on the phone to him, because she came on and made it joint for a few seconds, cut it off, ban your food for a week. What world are we living in? We're living in a world where they're playing mind games with him. And I heard tonight, from his family that they gave him the food right on the last day or something. They play mind games with him all the time on a number of things.
Deliberate.
He wanted the form. He wanted the form
wicked.
to complain. There's a complaint system you can go through, and then they said, "Oh, it'll be tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow," and they just played mind games with him on it, and that is cruel. And it's that cruelty that I want people like Vance and everyone to know about and to talk about. I want that made into an international thing to shame Starmer, to shame him into it. I just wish the world could contribute to this petition, but they can't. You have to be a British citizen, of course. But and over 10,000, so everyone knows, it has to be debated in Parliament. That'll be a little committee debate. Yeah. But that's over 10. If it gets to 100,000, we're going to have a lot of publicity. That's all I'm after. And the sole concentration on that at the moment is to get him into better conditions, to get him out of isolation, because it's damaging him.
Let's get to the bones of this, right, for a minute, right? Because I think this topic tonight and this discussion is so important. I want to ask you, I'm going to go one at a time, right? I'm going to ask the question, what is it with the media that no matter what they say or what they're talking about Tommy, they always have to speak about his previous criminal indiscrepancies, even though, and I have to keep pointing this out to people time and time and time again, that what criminal indiscrepancies he has are either pretty minor, cheeky minor, or they've pretty much been fabricated. In other words, it's been stitched up, just like he's in prison right now. What is it about the media that they just cannot get past that? And it seems to me that if he's stopped the Titanic from sinking, they still refer to him as Tommy Robinson, also known as Stephen Yaxley Lennon. They just, he could save the nation's babies and they would still hammer him and talk about his past convictions, which are, by the way, not a single one of them are anywhere near as bad as some convictions by footballers who have continued to play either in the Premiership or in the Football League. And in the case of international boxing, someone like Mike Tyson, who is still lauded as a hero across the world. Yeah. But this individual in particular, no matter what he does or how he says it, is continually vilified by the mainstream media and the liberal elite. Richard, why do you think that is?
They're terrified of him. Well, there's two things. The deep state, and there is a deep state in this country, the securocrats, the people that run the police, MI5, etc., they're terrified of Tommy Robinson because they know he can galvanise the British working class. That terrifies the elite because that threatens everybody. If you can get hundreds of thousands of people onto the streets of London at very, very short notice, which Tommy's now done 3 or 4 times in the last year, you're a massive threat, especially when your message is completely counter to the narrative. And let's get it right. The reality is that Tommy is highlighting the danger of the Islamization of the United Kingdom. That is his hobby horse. That's his main topic. And he's right about it. He's 100% right about it. And that's why he's been persecuted so much. They know they know he's a leader. They know he can galvanize people. And they know he can't be bought because they've tried and he told them where to go, told them to sling the hook. So they know that he's a massive threat to them. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is they're cowards. It's herd mentality, and I see it on GB News. And I know obviously you go on GB News, Paul, but I see it on GB News. The sneering attitudes to Tommy, the sneering attitudes in the Daily Telegraph. These are supposedly right-wing publications. The sneering attitudes in the Daily Mail. They're absolutely despicable, pathetic cowards. And the other thing is, Paul, they're from a completely different social set to what I am, to what you are, Paul, and to what you are, Danny. I don't know about your background, Paul, but, they're living in a completely parallel universe to us. They're all, a lot of these people are in the city. A lot of these people don't want to destroy their careers because they're thinking they can get on the BBC or on Sky or whatever it's going to be. Yeah. So they don't care. But then you see the outliers like Alex Phillips, Dan Wootton, Andre Walker, and others who are actually, and even Michelle Dewberry to a certain extent, who are actually standing up and saying, no. Daubney doesn't talk about Tommy that much, but he's not digging him out. He's not slandering him. And you saw that dreadful Tom Harwood character having a pop with him. I think Charlie Peters had a pop with him as well. I'm not sure. So these people, it's cowardice against bravery. And we need more Alex Phillips. We need more Andre Walkers. We need more Calvin Robinsons, more Lawrence Foxes, who've actually got the strength of the conviction to say, do you know what? We're actually going to stand up for what's right, and we're going to. But unfortunately, a lot of them don't do it till they've actually been cancelled themselves, and then they go, "Oh yeah, Tommy, I'm with you. We're all together now. Well, you weren't when you didn't get cancelled, mate. Do you know what I mean?" Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, long answer to a short question, Paul. But I'm so annoyed about it because the reality is what's been done to Tommy is completely unjust. All right, they can use the law in the Soviet Union. Under communism, they used the law. They just made the law so draconian that if you dropped a piece of litter on the pavement, the KGB could drag you off and shoot you in the back of the head. And that's the problem that we've got. They're using the law. Yes, he's committed an offence according to their laws. But the thing is, these are ridiculous, trumped-up charges. And like you say, he's basically been fitted up. I remember when he got arrested in 2018. I was going over there for my 50th birthday, and I got to London, and landed, and my phone just exploded with all the messages. Tommy's been arrested. Tommy's been arrested. And what he got arrested for there, again, was ridiculous. For filming people that had actually been convicted. They'd been found guilty. They'd been convicted. They were going in to get sentenced, and Tommy was filming them. That's what he was arrested for. People forget that. It was a completely trumped up charge.
No different to what the BBC had done, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the BBC did worse, didn't they? Because they went after Cliff Richard when Cliff Richard hadn't done anything. I think it was BBC or Sky or ITV put a helicopter above Cliff Richard's house, and Cliff Richard never faced any charges. So hypocrisy, double standards, and cowardice, Paul. That's what it is, mate.
Danny?
Paul, right. Tommy's in prison. He's a civil prisoner in a Cat B high security prison. They're torturing him daily with his food restrictions, with his visiting restrictions, with his telephone restrictions. Isolation now for what is it? 4 months, is it? Are we 4 months now? Nearly 4 months. End of October, end of November, end of February. Yeah. So nearly 4 months. They're obviously scared. The mainstream media, which was your original question, I think are controlled by the powers that be, not the government, higher than the government, and they don't want him having a voice. That I think they're going to make it so uncomfortable for him in the prison this time, in this sentence that he's serving, that he will never want to step outside the realm again. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to break him, obviously trying to silence him, and I believe that that's the goal for these people. That they don't ever want him to go back inside. They want to make him frightened to go back inside again. So they're trying to get him under control.
I don't think that will work.
No, I don't think it'll work. But that's, I think, their goal. That's their ultimate goal.
Yeah. Paul.
Right. Well, when Tommy first met me, and he came to my home to do the filming of that series. I said to him, I'm going to go through all the crimes, which we did, by the way, in the series, because I wanted everything out in the front. And in that series, Tommy's had tears. Well, he had tears at one point, but they weren't tears for himself. They were tears for a victim of grooming, actually. And out of that, I came to respect him so much. But he did ask me a question, because I had a big posh house and all that. And he did ask me a question. He said, "Why you, Paul? Why are you supporting me? Because you're like middle class type of stuff." And mind you, I was brought up at the age of 5 in the 3-bedroom terraced house with 5 families in it, right? I was on the streets of Liverpool without a home when I was a kid. and so I am, to me, just working class. Yeah. But he asked me that. And so when looking at it from the angle you've asked for it, I think part of it is the class system actually still there. I still think that, because somehow people think because you're this, or you've got this status, that makes you better, right? It doesn't make you better. And that it's still got, it has diminished over the years in Britain, but that element is still there. Now, I've obviously suffered, like you all would have suffered, by my association with Tommy. But bugger it, I don't care. I mean, that's life. And when I actually built up the climate thing, and then because of Tommy's recent things, went into Tommy again, I had people abusing me and all that sort of thing. And why you should do this, as if somehow, from my position, I shouldn't, as it were. Because, I employed people. I had a factory and everything, So, but that is class system. And so that's in it. The other thing is that, as already been said, they're scared of Tommy. They think they can break him. I mean, one of the things they did recently was, oh, Tommy, you've got more telephone allowance. Oh, great. And then he finds out the telephone allowance is at visiting times. So he has to choose between the visit or the telephone. Yes, these are mind games they're playing with that man. And then I asked myself, why are they doing this? This is the prison officers doing it. This is the prison organization doing it to him. Well, maybe they've got a twist in that, their particular politics or something. But then I have to ask myself, how come the left wing are so against people? Right through history. No matter who you take, you can take Mao Zedong, you can take Stalin, and so on. The left wing don't care about people. The people are just a thing to get to people, as it were. Now, I believe in social justice. I really do believe in the ability to progress, for example. So in my politics, I would argue against what they did for universities. I would want every child who's capable of it to be paid by the state to rise up, and I'd happily pay the taxes for that. Social mobility is extremely important. And over the years, Tommy and I got together. He did a podcast on my life recently. and again, I got a lot of kickback from my lot, as it were. But I don't care. And so, and Tommy's original suspicion of me obviously dissolved over the years. But he is such a man that I've got no choice but to back him. I've got no choice. And I think I know people. I know people in politics. I have connections in high politics, names you all know, and I try to feed them stuff behind the scenes, And if you take Howard Cox recently, Howard Cox, he's quite a big name in the public. I think he's been on your show, Paul, and he, after meeting Tommy for the first time for a few hours, he's out there full blast, as it were. A full blast. Yeah. And so people who understand it can go for it. But most people, just like on climate, most people don't really want to get into it. So it's easier to blame someone and put a name to them. That's always easy. That's an easy escape. You don't have to think anymore. Name him as the devil, he's the devil. Yeah. And a lot of ordinary people are like that. A lot are like that. Even my own family, as it were, originally, but just thought I was totally bonkers. Yeah. Although now it's far more understood. Yeah. So it's always going to be this way, as long as we've got this attitude that somehow they're better than us. They're not. Yeah. They're not better than us.
I have a theory. I tend to find that it's usually men that are the most vociferous, if that's the right word, in attacking Tommy. And I believe it's because in many respects, in many cases, they hate him because he is precisely what they would love to be.
Good one.
They wish that they had his backbone, his moral compass, and the balls to stand by all of those things. And unfortunately, there's far too many men out there today that haven't got that attribute. Kenny, thank you so much. With the billions that Zelenskyy has made, you would think he could afford a suit and tie to wear at the Oval Office. That's a good point. Them army fatigues need a wash, I reckon.
Yeah.
David Crosby, I pray that Russian war crimes are not forgotten.
They will be.
I totally agree. I think that's the truth is the Russians have behaved appallingly in this war as well. And I think we've got to say this clearly. I'm not on the side of Russia. I'm not on the side of Zelensky, and I'm on the side. I want peace. I want peace because I think we're in a very dangerous situation.
Rebellious Jay says Tommy Robertson is a revolutionary leader, a future prime minister. I back him with my whole heart and soul. Time is now, people. God bless Britain. I mean, look, that statement there for a moment. Tommy as a future prime minister. I mean, in all realistically, in everyone's wildest dreams, could that ever happen?
No.
Never say never, but I don't think so. I don't think Tommy would want it. I don't think Tommy would want that.
He wouldn't want it, and I don't think he's got the skill set for it.
Yeah.
He's not qualified for that.
I'm not bothered about the actual qualification. Qualifications very much are experience. Experience is a qualification. But he don't forget, Tommy was before he kicked the policeman who attacked him right at the beginning of all this. Before he did that, he was having quite a successful time in that, and he had houses and all sorts of things. He was doing okay. Tommy's an intelligent person. Yeah. I don't mean that way, but he hasn't had the experience to become a prime. Nor have I, for that matter. I'd say the answer to that was it may be, just maybe, if we had a presidential system, but prime minister, I can't ever see it happening. Because there's a class system that'll never allow that. It just won't allow it. I've come across it time and time again. This system, and I had a letter one day at my home, and I was not a member of any party or anything, and this is many years ago, and because I had a big mansion, are you with me? I got a letter, and it said, Welsh Office, would you like to be nominated into any role you want? Police authority, health authority, as a government appointee in these, yes? Because they assumed, because I had a big home, yes, that I was one of them, as it were, yeah? And I refused because I thought, no, I don't like the lack of democracy in this. So I actually said, no, I don't want to be anything in that. I'd love to be in the police authority. That would have interested me, but not on that basis of me on the old boy network. So I've always rejected the old boy network. And that old boy network is still very powerful. And it rules a lot of things, a lot of things. So I've come across it all over the world. The Americans aren't like that. The Americans are very, very different to us that way. But we are still like that a bit. So that's why. Yeah,
we certainly are. Devon7, thank you. Starmer's barefaced lie to Trump and Vance about free speech in Britain. He clearly craves control. But what is his end game? Surely he knows he is hated. I don't think he gives a monkey's chuff.
Doesn't matter.
David Crosby, thank you. After Zelensky's Europe must be having diarrhea.
Yeah. Do you remember Brown? Do you remember Brown when he got accosted, if you like, by that old lady, as it were? And as he drove away, he did a mic drop.
His microphone was on.
Who got me in with her? That is the attitude I'm talking about.
Didn't he call her a bigot?
Yeah,
bigot.
That bigot and everything, because she was about immigration and that bigot and all this. How dare she? How dare she? Because these people are more involved in changing the whole world from their. If you want the most extreme arrogance of this, it's the WEF. They're the ones who brought the word net zero into the world. They're the ones who brought all these ideologies in, including the transgender stuff and all that. They're the ones who started all this, and they had to really start serious in 2020 and end in 2030. And their arrogance that they can rule the world this way, the arrogance of it. So you've got you've got a leader in the advisor to the government in America on climate, and a big advocate. Limit this. He flies right across the Atlantic to pick up an award in a private jet. Yeah. And back. Yeah. And the arrogance of that. So there's one rule for them and one rule for us. And if you're one of them, it's very hard to break away from it for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's that world. So to me, every time I make a climate video, I made one yesterday, and I try to explain to every video I make is really for the layperson. It's not, every time I do that, I'm fighting the same thing as Tommy's fighting. Honestly, there's a mindset, and that's it. And they're not interested in the truth. But what's going to make them interested in the truth in that is it won't work. The costs are rising. The poverty we're going to have. You see, what's the cost of net zero? I'm not talking about climate, really. We've just lost not 3,000 jobs in the steel industry in Port Talbot, we've lost 10,000. All the satellite companies have gone out of business. All the shops that supplied them and all that went out of business. We're crucifying the car industry. We've already crucified the aluminium industry. So the real costs are so severe, it's unbelievable to measure. And as these rise and rise and rise, we've got these pure theories like Miliband in the centre listening to the WEF. Yeah. And it's unbelievable how
Mad Miliband.
Pardon?
Mad Miliband. Paul, I want to get through one or two of these super chats, my friend. Paul O'Keefe, thank you. He says Putin, when he was with the KGB, provided arms to the West German Baader-Meinhof terror group. Also, Zelenskyy is corrupt. President Trump and J.D. Vance are right in trying to end the stalemate. Cheers from MAGA. I think, Paul, you are absolutely spot on the money there. No more supers tonight, guys, because we will be wrapping it up before long, but we still got a little bit to go through. Rebellious J, Tommy Robinson could easily start a political party. The people can finally see, after all these years, power with all the people of Britain. I think the trouble with that one is that not enough people are switched on. Too many people still believe the mainstream narrative about Tommy.
Yeah.
Rebellious J again, the next few months are going to be critical for Britain. Strike while the iron is hot. The people in Britain are at boiling point. David, thank you. Trump kicked Zelenskyy out like the Prince of Bel-Air.
I don't understand that.
Cheers, Craig. Appreciate that. MG, on climate, just look at what they did to David Bellamy. He tried to warn us.
You're not allowed to have a counter argument on almost any subject. It's the BBC world. It's only their world. Yeah. The only paper they buy is The Guardian and the BBC. It is their world.
Sorry, Jay. I do get around to all the messages eventually, but thanks anyway, mate. I appreciate that. Sorry it's taken me so long to get around to your chats, but I've got 3 brilliant guests on here. And Richard.
Sorry.
It's the quietest I've ever heard.
This is a quiet. I was going to say, Rich, has your mic gone off?
No, I'm just tired. It's like, and look, I can talk a lot. Paul's brilliant at talking, and I like listening to Paul. So let Paul. It's the first time Paul's been on the show. I'm not going to waffle on and steal Paul's thunder because he's got a lot of good stuff to say. So let Paul, chat away.
Linda Stone, the evening boys. Do you think maybe Trump talked to Starmer about the way things are in the UK, public morale, and our fears for the future? As we said earlier on, Linda, I believe that more was said round the back room, if you like.
Camera,
Wes, we are. Cheers. It was so bad. I love Trump saying we get along famously. In my eyes, he meant to refer to all the slurs that the Labour Party made against him. I think that's true. Cheers,
said.
Rebellious Jay. Yeah.
I think Trump was being very, very, very clever in the way he was. I think he's got a very quick wit and a very sarcastic wit, and I think he made a fool out of Starmer, and Starmer didn't even realise he was being made.
When they brought up the free speech thing, I thought that was to put Starmer under pressure, and didn't he crack? Didn't he crack? We have it here. Please, sir.
He'd be no good. He'd be no good under questioning that fella at all.
Alan, thank you, Alan. As the saying goes, chaps, every little helps. We are getting news that we will not go elsewhere. Many thanks, gents. Appreciate that. And hopefully some good company as well. The Knights Templar, happy to donate, support each other. Cheers, mate. James Bond. I wish I could afford to give you a bigger super chat, like a million. Is that 1,000 or that's a million?
Yeah, that's a million. That's a million.
Your work. And all of you are priceless. God bless you all. Thank you, James. Cheers, mate. I really appreciate that. That'd be nice, wouldn't it, Rich? £1 million super chat.
That would be all right,
mate.
What
do with that?
That'd be all right.
I'd set up my own political party, I think, with £1 million. Wouldn't be enough.
Well, you wouldn't have much change. Nah, it wouldn't be enough, mate. It wouldn't be enough. You could actually become chairman of Reform if you gave them £1 million.
Yeah.
£250,000 did it for Zia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 200 grand.
On Reform, because my view on Reform is that there's lots of things I don't like. I've made some videos about them, and he said that lot, etc. I made a video on that. But I'd still vote Reform because they're the nearest thing to change the system, and then you deal with it. So that's my view. So
I think, Paul, I think one of the things is you're like me, and you like Paul Thorpe. We're not allowed to join Reform. We were in that dreadful fascist party for Britain. So because we're in for Britain, we're actually on the prohibited list. We can't even join, as far as I know.
No, I was the environmental spokesman for Britain. Which
so that's you, son, Paul. You're
out, Paul.
I didn't want to be anywhere. I don't want to be anywhere.
You're out in the cold with the rest of us. I don't want to join either.
Oh, you're a goose-stepping far-right fascist.
That's right.
Football fug.
I'm a racist. I'm a fascist. And so on, you name it.
Transphobic, Islamophobic.
I'm everything. I'm everything. And,
Mystic Turtles. It's hard work. Take my money and bin it. Cheers, mate.
It's all about control. And once the system thinks it's losing control, they come down on you. It's about control, and that's all the climate's about. It's purely about control.
I see a lot of lefties in Brighton. The only phobe they got is work phobe.
Yes. Yeah. So
Kenny, thank you, Kenny. Maybe we should annoy the King's office with sacks full of letters as well to free Tommy. Not a bad idea. I don't know if they would. I don't know if that would have any effect. It's something different though, isn't it? Grumpy adult gamer Mark. I'm not much help. Little donation to help. Thank you, mate. I'd love to be a fly on the wall behind the scenes.
By the way, the King is a WEF member. He loves the WEF.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't he just?
That's so sad.
Rebellious Jay, my profile picture was the reason for me not to get a mention. Is that better? No, I read them all out. It just takes me a bit of time to get around to them sometimes, especially on a busy night like tonight. Richard, what you got planned for the weekend? Anything good?
Mate, listen, I've had a lot on, so I'm just going to take it really easy, Paul. I'm going to take it very, very easy, and I'm going to do absolutely nothing. I'm just going to be a bum for the weekend and eat loads of nice food and have a couple of beers, and that's about the height of it.
Danny, what you got planned? Much?
Got a large carnival tomorrow in our town, but it is unfortunately under threat from terrible rain tomorrow. So we'll see. We'll see if we go or not. If not, we've got another birthday party, unfortunately, Paul. So I'm going to be sitting there with a load of 5-year-olds again.
Well, yeah, at least you'll be able to talk to them, and the kind of same sort of level, Danny.
No, they're far too intelligent for me, Paul. They speak 2 languages. I only speak Essex. That's it,
Oh dear. Let's have a little look. Let's get through the last of the supers, guys. My humble payments are in thanks to Paul for the fantastic work he does. I couldn't give a KCUF, we know what he means, what he does with it. Thank you very much. Margaret, thank you. God bless you. Jackie, Paul, how about a new calendar for us girls? I'd pay for one as long as December was worth it. That should all help us out. Oh, Jackie.
Can't think of anything worse. Paul Burgess, what month do you want, mate? I'm going to take May. What month do you fancy?
I don't think I would want to be the very last one, so they'd seen everyone else before they ripped the last one. I mean, I wouldn't survive.
Oh.
That would be a terrible sight.
I think we could have Danny on the front cover in a pair of cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Danny, do all right.
Yeah.
Oh, don't believe it, mate. Don't believe it.
Jackie, you've got us. Don't start me off because it could get very naughty. But
Make me feel a bit ill, actually, Paul. To be honest with you,
I don't go that fog. I'd be in a climate smog.
I tell you what, Jackie, you give me an idea.
No, don't do that, Jackie, for crying out loud.
No. It's that thought of Paul Thorpe.
Anyway, thanks for joining us all. See you later.
Daddy, your mic is about to blow my ears off.
Sorry, I'll turn it down.
I tell you what, let's go through the months in the chat there, guys. Let's go through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Let's see who would be your. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to go for. I think January. January should be Noel from Reform. We'll have Noel from Reform in January. Rebellious Jay, thank you. Action speaks louder than words. Tommy being in jail in solitary is anti-human. It is dark. Exactly. Thank you, Vanda. Signed and shared the petition. And brilliant. Kobe is gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Kobe. Richard, who are we going to go for February?
February, well, it's a cold month, isn't it? So it's going to have to be somebody that
Starmer
lives in Spain a lot. That lives in Spain a lot. I think it's got to be Danny. Danny's got to be February. Get him out in the cold. Do you know what I mean?
February is.
Paul, March. What do you reckon? Who's going to be March?
Oh, I think it ought to be Starmer, but he'd be in the water up to his bloody neck. Right, well, actually, preferably up just above his nose.
No, it's got to be a patriot. It's got to be a patriot. Someone, it's got to be a patriot, Paul. Come on, we'll give you March. Who do you fancy for March?
I really struggle with these things. You've outwitted me on this. I mean, March. Who has it got to be?
Well, just someone on our side. Anyone would do. It's a calendar.
On our side.
Yeah, it's a calendar.
Then I'd probably choose. No, I'm lost. I'm sorry. I'm going to skip. Mine's a blank because I'm totally incapable of answering.
That's all right. No, you're right. I'll tell you what. I'll choose.
Lawrence Fox.
Lawrence Fox for March. That's not bad.
That's okay. Lawrence Fox would be March, and I'll think of him before we come round again. I'm going to think.
Danny, April.
Well, it's got to be Ben Habib, isn't it? We haven't brought him in yet.
And what's he going to be wearing? Oh, I reckon the little man thong and a.
Oh, let's just.
Baseball cap.
This is getting a little bit It's getting a bit homoerotic. This, Paul. I think.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit worried about you. I mean, you were the guy that told me when I first met you, I'm the straightest man you'll ever meet. I'm getting a little bit concerned now, Paul. But you might be 60-odd-year-old, but I think you're finally coming out the closet, mate. I'm getting worried.
Have you seen what you've done, Jackie? Have you seen what you've done? You've ruined this show.
Jackie started it. I'm blaming Jackie. Righteous Jamie. As an American, it's nice to know that Starmer knows the difference what free speech is about. Kudos to Vance and fearless leader Trump. Absolutely. Philip Shepherd. I have had to come away for a while because I was so upset about what they were doing to Tommy. He's sick. I know a lot of people have felt like that.
Yeah.
Rebellious Jay, satanic agenda, Paul Thorpe, Tommy Robinson is God-loving. We live in a satanic world. It's deeper than we know. Laurie, Mike Ainsbury batters someone and gets a suspended sentence. Tommy is in solitary since October for contempt. And absolutely. And contempt for what? Contempt because he wouldn't hide or refused to not show what he believes to be the truth. Tesbot, hi all, thank you for all you do. Read Tommy or anyone who dares to speak out on Islam, etc. How attacked are you? Shows how right you are. Chris, thank you, Chris Byrne. Even we in Ireland see it. Just recently, a Jamaican immigrant threatened nationalist councillor Gavin Pepper on social media. Makes sense. make that make sense. Yeah, Ireland confuses me because they, when you got a party like Sinn Féin, who are supposed to be nationalists, Richard might understand this a bit better. They've always been a nationalist party, and I get that and, can respect it. But why are they so pro-migration?
Well, I mean, look, Sinn Féin, one, there's two things about Sinn Féin. Firstly, most of the senior leadership have been working for the British and Irish state for the past 30 years anyway, so they're hardly true to the blue, Republicans. That's the first thing. The second thing is they are socialists. They're a socialist party. They've bought into the WEF agenda. They've bought into the EU, and they're absolute sellouts. And Sinn Féin have totally betrayed the whole idea of national sovereignty by just opening the floodgates to mass migration. They're just a fake party. They're just like the Labour Party, the Lib Dems. They're a progressive party, and they're an absolute disgrace. And there's a lot of genuine nationalists in Ireland, North and South, the genuine unionists and loyalists that despise what the political parties are doing on the whole of this island, North and South. So Sinn Féin are not what they seem, and the reality is they never have been what they seem. And a little bit of digging into the history of the recent troubles will show exactly what Sinn Féin are. I mean, Hearn and Kelly call them touts and louts, and I think that's a very good description. Informers and louts, that's what Sinn Féin are.
Rebellious Jay, it's dimensional. Listen, Jax Falconer, I am Tommy Robinson, absolutely. Rebellious Jay, Starmer is a Freemason.
Is he?
Didn't know that.
I have no idea. James Bond, D-Day rally for Tommy, 6/6/25 are Friday. Rallies are not just for the SAS. Saturdays and Sundays rallies are for Great Britain and for our children's future. Free Tommy Robinson now. Just coming towards the end, guys. But before we go tonight, I am going to have a look. I am going to have a delve in the chat to see who the viewers have recommended for that calendar.
Well, I've got the next one in mind. Would be Howard Cox. I thought he'd do it.
Howard Cox, yeah, Howard Cox.
He could be April.
This would be a bestseller. Rebellious Jay, where is the Viking in you all?
I was going to say something, but I'm just biting my tongue. I'm not going to even say it.
What's that, mate?
I'm not going to say it. It was something to do with helmets. I'm just not going to say it.
Oh, God bless Tommy. If anything happens to him, oh yeah, we don't even want to think about that. Ian, thank you so much. We're there. Rebellious Jay says a revolution is my dream. Well, mate, if there was, hopefully it would be a peaceful one because we don't want any bloodshed. That's the last thing we want. Right, guys, no more supers tonight, please. I appreciate those all. Let's have a little look in the chat to see if anyone, before we go, who they've got any suggestions for our end of year. We might just do this, Danny, I mean, if there's enough call for it.
Good night, all.
I can't even get to the bottom of the chat, to be fair. But Paul, listen, thank you so much. It's been brilliant having you on tonight for the first time. Really appreciate that, and I'm sure the viewers have enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and we will see you again soon. Let's have a little look.
But the important thing is sign the petition. Don't forget the petition.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want Tommy out of solitary. That's the number one thing in my world.
Sign that position, please.
What are you up to, Paul, the weekend?
I'm this fall, yeah.
Either Paul.
All right, I'm doing a VAT return, which ain't going to be good because I hate doing them. I got a small business and a holiday place, and I've got to do a VAT return on it, and I hate it. So I'm afraid I'll be sad all weekend.
I outsource all of my stuff like that, mate. I can't be doing with any of it. I just give it all to the accountant and say, there it is, get on with it. I can't be doing all that.
Right.
Drives me bloody mad. Right, Paul, thank you so much. I'm trying to get to the bottom of the super chat, of the regular chats, but I can't even get there. There's just bloody thousands of them. Thank you so much, Paul. It's been a pleasure. good night and have a great weekend. Thank you very much. Cheers, Paul. Danny, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And Richard as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Look after yourselves, and as always, look after those children. We'll see you soon, guys.